Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
For decades, they told you that you were alone. They buried the signal. They classified a file. They wheeled the truth into a back room and turned off the lights and poked it with stuff. But the truth does not stay buried. The truth goes on the run. It leaks out of a cybersecurity terminal. It crosses a darkened country, one seedy motel at a time, and it ends up exactly where they feared it would. Kansas City. Tonight, we're commandeering the broadcast to do the one thing all the men in the back room dreaded the most. We're gonna talk about it out loud with opinions. The film board gathers. Justin J.J. Yeager, Mandy Kaplan, Tommy Metz III, and Steve Sarmento. Quick, before they cut the feed, pull up a chair, tell no one, and listen.
Yeah, I have my
That's
device.
why they kept cutting the feed on you, Pete. They knew you were going to be speaking the truth.
Pete, I hoped you would do that in the language, but you didn't.
Wait, that's not what you heard? Did you hear English, Mandy?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Spielberg returns to the alien contact genre he basically invented for modern audiences, and his obsession has given us a 79-year-old man's view of the panic that will surely ensue when the truth is at last revealed. This is Disclosure Day, and I will just open the floor by saying I went into this not wanting to enjoy myself. Is that weird? I went into it not wanting to be moved for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because when I personally am confronted by the whole aliens thing, I just don't care. I do not care one lick about the alien UFO stuff. I don't personally care. So I went into this as the blasé, like, D-bag that everybody knows that is probably sitting in the theater with them. And damn it, Spielberg. Damn it. You are an extraordinary filmmaker. I don't care if I don't like the story. My God, he plays the hits, man. He plays them in a way that causes those big old tears to just gently fall. Let us begin with opening thoughts. Mandy, go ahead.
Well, I went in very much looking forward to having a good time and to being moved, and with no cynicism whatsoever. And I did not enjoy this film. I found it disjointed. I have an issue with casting almost solely non-Americans, so they are struggling with their accent the entire time. And that's not a patriotic thing. They're all good actors. I just couldn't get past their accents. Yeah, I didn't feel it worked. And I know it's getting good reviews, and I can't quite figure out why.
Yeah, I am interested in this podcast because I've talked to many other people that have seen it and have really not liked it. I, as a whole, think that there are a lot of problems with the movie, and yet I liked it so much more than I didn't like it. And I loved the acting. I don't have the ear that Mandy does, so that stuff doesn't bother me. But I do have the eyes and the Spielberg magic. And when he does things like show characters experiencing awe, I feel like he's the one that made it happen. And that's what this entire movie is. And I'm there for it. And so this movie, to use your phrase, Pete, to play the hits, he plays a lot of hits and even redoes some stuff from movies like Minority Report that we'll get into that were my favorite parts of those other movies. So I really overall enjoyed it, albeit it being too long.
I endorsed. Okay. Steve-O.
So Spielberg's let me down the past couple times. I just rewatched Ready Player One and was like, should have been something great. I was like, okay, with this, I don't want to go in overly enthusiastic, overhyped or anything. I avoided everything. I saw like the initial whatever short little teaser. It was like, I don't want to get my hopes up too high on this. So I'm going to go in knowing that he's let me down in recent years. I don't know if he has the magic in him anymore. Then I heard rumblings like, oh, this is a secret sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, don't. That's one of my, Mandy knows how important that movie is to me. I'm like, don't tease me with stuff like that. So I'm like putting that to the side. I'm like, no, this is its own thing, whatever it is. Walked into the theater, sat down, not knowing what to expect. And that's my boy. He delivered the movie that I didn't know I wanted and needed, and hit in so many ways when it comes to the themes. There's so much going on. Yes, as you say, there's connections to other films. There's the characteristic Spielberg moments. There's some new things. And I had a tremendous time. My wife and I talked all about this, so many things that we see in this, connections, themes, just really enjoyed it. And it's something that I know I'm going to go back to and dig deeply into a lot. And it hit me right here, right there where I needed it to.
Because you and Mandy talked about Close Encounters on Mandy's podcast, right?
That's right.
Make Me a Nerd. That's right. So you can go and get all of your thoughts from there. All right.
I super love this movie in a really big way. I think this movie accomplishes a whole lot of stuff. I'm not super deep on Spielberg. I'm deep on Spielberg in the way that like the average Joe is, right? I've seen the big Spielberg movies, but I don't have the eye that we talked about catching Spielberg's tricks. I don't know about that stuff. But for me in this movie, and I have a lot of quibbles. It sounds like I agree with some of Mandy's quibbles, and I want to talk about those too. But there was something that happened to me in this movie when I was thinking about the story, and in particular, how the story can work for a lot of people that want to believe in alien narratives. But there are some allegories about the IRL human experience that are really fun to play with in this movie too. And I want to talk about that as what's very special about this story. And honestly, what you guys are saying about the performances, they hit me really hard. Now, some of them were really, really good. And those I want to talk about a lot. Some of them I was kind of bored by, and it felt a little episodic. So that's something, again, that's a quibble. But for me, the way that it was all wrapped up and packaged up, it made for a top tier movie for me.
Top tier movie, man. Okay. I feel like then we should probably just do a little bit of due diligence for Mandy. So Mandy, we're going to put on a throne, but let's go through as we have invested in deeply in our research over on our sister podcast, Sitting in the Dark. We begin with Axes to Grind. So let's go ahead then and pull out some of the things that you guys are pulling on that did not work for you.
Well, can I ask Mandy right away, about the accents? So it was actually kind of frustrating to me too, and I didn't notice the thing that you were talking about the for non-Americans doing American roles. I found in particular, I'm a huge fan of Emily Blunt in this movie, but her Russian accent is way better than her American accent. I was like, oh my gosh, and your Korean is great too, but why do I not hear the American? And I don't know. I want to hear your more take on that accent piece for sure.
I'm always an Emily Blunt fan. I think she is a spectacular, fine actress. I didn't think this was her strongest work. And I questioned why she put on a mousy, she put on kind of a voice like this. And it wasn't just when she was the weather girl, which I totally understand. She was speaking like that throughout the movie, and that's not her natural voice. So to me, that's like when Nicole Kidman whispers through a whole movie because she's really trying to maintain her American accent. And I do bump on those things because I'm a voice snob. I want to get names right. Josh O'Connor can do no wrong. His accent was flawless, but Eve Hewson sounded like a leprechaun, and she was why cast an Irish person with a thick Irish accent to be American? Why not just let her be Irish? She's a fine actress. I like her. So that bumps for me and takes me out. Plain and simple. Those were the two egregious ones. Colin Firth does a great British accent.
The only voice that kind of bumped for me, only because he seems to only he's got a beautiful voice, so I'm not really complaining about it. But Coleman Domino's, every line he speaks, it's how it's pronounced. Every line he speaks is the most important line.
He's
that
like the
ever
Morgan Freeman
spoken.
narrating. Yeah.
And so it can make things, if the line isn't perfectly written, it can come off as a little precious and a little too majestic, because everything, when he's like ordering a latte, you're like, settle down, Coleman. That was the only voice that, for me, just because a little bit of that goes a long way.
But wasn't that also sort of inferred in the character? Like that would,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. And if we carry over how we treat this actor in other films too, like, but I felt like that was Hugo's like role in this story, is to be the
unwavering awe.
Yeah, like getting into that thing when Emily Blunt's when she finally sees him and she's like, I don't want to look at you because you know everything, right? Like he represents that. Like he is counseling everyone through this movie. He is that thing that you're saying, and so that didn't bother me at all. I was buying into it with the story for sure.
I think that's where I landed too. I think, and I also didn't have a problem with any of the accents. I love Eve Hewson so much, and such a huge fan of Bad Sisters that it was just a massive delight to see her in a Spielberg movie. What an awesome lift for her. The issue that I had, if I had an axe, it was that poor Eve and Wyatt Russell have a lot to do, and then they're out ordering the lattes for people, I guess. Like they just disappear. And Wyatt Russell's was, I think maybe the more egregious one, because he's left abandoned at a gas station, and we see him one more time in a cutaway during the alien montage at the end, where he just gets to have his mouth open at camera. And that was, I thought, a weird is sort of choice around economy of character. Like, was he, I guess we were just done with his character, but I don't know that I was done with his character.
I liked it because it showed that not everybody is just going to go along, that this movie is very optimistic, as far as more optimistic and hopeful and empathetic about the idea of, if you are going to release this kind of information, A, people will care, B, people will believe, and C, it might stop this incoming World War III. We don't get that far to see about the full reaction. But during the big, and I'm skipping to the very end, of course, but during the big unloading of all the footage, you see an enormous amount of people in awe staring at their phones, but also people not handling it well, like getting off of buses, moving very fast, almost in tears. And that's going to be the way it's going to be. And so I think you're going to pick up certain people on this ride, and other people are going to have to get off the bus, because he was already thinking about, maybe it sounded like their relationship wasn't doing great anyways.
Yes.
And so I felt that worked for me. I like the idea of this new journey is you're going to have a new cast of characters.
Well, and I took it as closure to the relationship a little bit, because, she said, he's like, well, when are you going to settle? When are you going to be happy? And she's like, I know when I'll get there. And for me, we needed that moment for not only the awe of what he's seen, but I also took that as a realization of, okay, she's found her place, of his realization that this is where she needs to be. I had something else in mind. Oh, okay. I see why she was being pulled in this way. And it may be putting a lot of baggage onto something, but to me, that's what that moment served, is to sort of just tie a bow on that.
Where do you guys land on this as the sort of spiritual end to Spielberg's Alien trilogy, right? We start with Close Encounters. It's the experience of private awe, government as the obstacle, ends in transcendence, right? Then we have E.T., where we get this contact as this intimate childhood friendship, and government, again, is the faceless threat. And now Disclosure Day, where we have contact as a global public event, that big tech is the new villain, and it is a story of truth versus mass media, which was not a major, unless I'm forgetting a massive angle in the other two movies was not a major function of the first two movies. This is new Spielberg. What did you make of this as a completion of of his trilogy? Steve, you've got maybe the biggest heart for Close Encounters.
Yes. There's so much in this, and I thought that this is the logical step for where we are in sort of in global communication and all of this. And I thought the idea of taking it global, balancing two things. Again, I love that our quote unquote villain is really just I'm about maintaining the status quo. This isn't like I've got the evil mastermind. This is about my own glory and power and all of that. It was really like I'm trying to protect the world from itself because I know this will unravel everything and I need to protect and maintain status quo. And then that bleeds into that idea of the breakdown of communication between people. This whole idea that comes through of like the empathy, the understanding of each other, and that transparency between each other. So for me, it really went from, in Close Encounters and E.T. about a personal experience to, as we get older, as we move from, childhood, we have to be able to effectively engage with each other. And to me, that was sort of the follow through of we need to pull the curtains back so that we can be fully transparent, open ourselves to each other. I think that's the power that Margaret has as she's talking with people, is they are being seen, fully seen by somebody else. She's seeing things that is true to their core, something that's important to them. And to me, that part, the media, the getting that part out there, wasn't so much the story. It's really those personal connections. If you look at Close Encounters, it's Richard Dreyfuss isolating himself from his family and going off on this, journey by himself. You've got, Elliot and E.T. It's that relationship between the two of them, the alien and the human. And I think this now really wraps all that together of we have the two characters, one that is sort of the empath to draw people to each other, and then Daniel is that sort of translator that can speak the language back and forth of, great, we need to bring everything together in coherence. And to me, that sort of summed up and capped off that trilogy very well.
I love that. I love what Steve said so much, and that's such a through line, especially for this movie, that those in charge aren't trusting the aliens, so they're covering them up. They're not trusting the human public, so they're keeping the truth from them. And then Coleman has this speech about empathy, and then what is the very last line in the movie? It's listen. And we don't know what she could be saying, listen, ack, 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 and like she enslaves the world. Probably not. It could just be listen to each other, trust each other, and listen to each other, because that's what's missing in today's culture, is just the ability to listen across barriers.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting take too, because we're in this weird place in the world with empathy, right? Like we have the sort of famous line, I can't remember if it was from Tucker Carlson or Charlie Kirk, where they were saying like, or maybe even Elon Musk was saying like, empathy is going to be the fall of human culture. Like it's this kind of thing where like, oh, well, there are two narratives here. And I think that's the interesting thing to me about this movie, is like whether you want to buy into the belief about aliens or whether you don't, there is an interesting story about humanness in this movie. And that's so the question that I would ask is kind of reflecting back at you, Pete, when you say like, whenever about the alien stuff, like I don't care, like is it because you don't believe, or is it because it's not interesting? Like what is that feeling for you? Because right now, the way that I look at it and looking at this trilogy, like I don't even know whether I care to believe or not, but I think it's really interesting to think about the stories that Spielberg is trying to tell, and using these as the vehicle to tell them about what our human experience is.
Yeah. I listening to him talk about it, you can tell he's very much in tune with his perception of whether or not aliens exist. This is his cause célèbre. He really wants to dive in. This whole movie was made, by focusing on the real evidence that has been released, that people are talking about UFOs, UAVs, whatever. And this is important to him. And to me, I actually statistically do believe that there is life outside of us. I just statistically do. And and I also think that is irrelevant to the price of gas, and I think any of me being obsessed with life in outer space visiting us is a distraction. So I have to sort of remove myself from seeing stories like this that are so clearly so deeply personal, right? This is practically a journal entry for this guy, and he made a great film about it for me. And I still I stand unconvinced. Yet I read all the stories about the actors are saying, Emily Blunt said, "Oh, now that I've been in this movie, I totally believe that aliens exist and are among us." And I'm like, you were good in the movie, just like why are you studying astrophysics and like should I come on? So that's where I am. I am removed from the my opinion doesn't matter. My belief in the existence doesn't matter. And I was still moved by the movie. And I think I was moved by the movie because I actually really bought into the Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, the Margaret Daniel search for one another. What he made here is a real journey movie of bringing these two people together. And it could have been a massive whiff. It could have been complete nonsense. By the time they get together. And when they got into they get roped up together and they meet Coleman Domino, we're calling him, and Hugo, and they go into the giant warehouse and they're in her parents' house where she was to recreate the environment where she was first visited by the thing, and Daniel and Margaret are seated together where her bedroom is the stage, and they hold on to the bar device and they see what she saw, and I realized like that's when the whole movie sort of came together for me, like the entire journey, the parts, the following their separate journeys, it came together as a whole, weirdly, unexpectedly successfully. When the little girl version of Margaret is wandering out into warm snow, I was impacted by that. I thought that was a really successful way to tell this story, to give them both equal purpose. And it just it played. And for that last hour of the movie, I was deeply invested. And it's all down to the way these two characters were written for me.
Well, the only reason why Mandy didn't like it is because her heart is dead.
Oh,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes, good point. Good point. But it took too long and too many repetitive beats to get there. There were so many near misses and so many like all the whenever one dude can outsmart 20 armed agents in their black cars.
Yeah.
It was I roll my eyes.
Yeah. It was a little bit like National Treasure in that respect.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah,
that's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, this is National Treasure with aliens.
But I love National Treasure.
Oh, there you go.
I thought, it's interesting you say that because I was in a very similar place, especially when he comes so O'Connor comes back up over the hill where he's been using his satellite burner phone, and he sees that the farmhouse where they have set up shop is completely overrun with black cars, and instead of going the other way, he goes in and steals one of the black cars on the front lines, and chase ensues. He drives through the living room of the farmhouse to pick up Eve Hewson's character, and my goodness, I thought this is the stupidest thing I love right now.
I also they did not seem to be a very connected couple. Like as it starts, they were like, well, I never told you anything about myself. Well, I never told you anything about myself. So if they've been dating a couple of months, I didn't buy that he would risk his life to go back for her over and over. Their relationship was undefined to me.
So I agree with that. And one thing that I liked in the story about it, though, was putting their roles in life, not the actors, but their roles in life as this criminal who was drafted into big tech, and this nun, someone learning to be a nun. And the line that got me to it was when they started talking about how they lost their calling. And there was a lot of that in the movie. And I was feeling the same thing. I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't get it until then. And so And I felt like that a lot of the ways in the movie. Like, Pete, you bring up the scene where, like, why didn't he go the other direction? And the whole time I'm hating it. Like, why are you walking to the cars and all this stuff? And then we have the amazing motion control shots in all of that scene, by the way.
my
Like,
God.
from the camera, like, into the,
Through
and then
the
all this
fence.
stuff. So for a very sort of like mechanical reason, I love that they did it. And coming out, just the camera was spectacular. But then the scene in the car where she's being possessed, controlled to kill him, and they worked through it. Like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Like, that made it work for me. Like, all of a sudden there's a purpose. It's like the character knows that this is possible, and the character knows that it can be done to people. So he puts himself in harm's way because he cares about a person. And I agree, like, it's shallow till then, but the fact that it happens actually helped me buy in. So I don't know. It's really weird because I was worried, and then it won it for me. So
With that leap of faith, he's saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It's because there's a calling. There is a higher thing. And it's much more pronounced with Emily Blunt's character. When I brought up, hello, Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell, and balls are rolling. Minority Report.
Minority Report.
The original title was Colin Firth, Balls Are Rolling. Not Colin Firth, Colin Farrell. Anyways, my favorite part of that movie, one of my favorite parts, was when Precog Magoo is out and about, out of the milk, and walking through a mall and just warning people about things because she knows everything. That's the exact same trick that they use for Emily Blunt for a lot of this movie, and I love it. I find it exciting. I love these little tricks of that he's hearing English and everyone else is hearing, just these completely different viewpoints and different ways of taking all of this in. I mean, that stuff really worked for me, and it was very repetitive with Colin Firth. I'm going to figure this out at some point. Colin Firth using the device that seems to be able to do anything, but I'm fine with that, to possess people. But I found it was so magnetic each time. It was really scary and really well filmed. So I didn't care. I didn't care that I didn't understand the rules that much because it was well acted and well played. So I really enjoyed that.
I think you have a, I mean, that was going to be sort of the next thing that I wanted to talk about, because the tricks, like the trick of the bar, the, pressed latinum bar. I don't know.
We
what
all
it
have
is.
one.
Everybody's holding a bar. Okay. All right. The fact that I think they sell it for me by demonstrating how they don't know how it works either. Like, we don't need to know the rules because they keep screwing up with it. And guys they disappear. You think they're gone, but then they come back on the ground. Like, nobody understands the rules behind it. It's like they know one thing that it can do, and they've sort of got that down. And that is the dive, like being able to dive into others' consciousness. I thought that was a slam dunk for me. And it was another one that could have been such a whiff. It could have been so confusing.
Unfortunately. It was that bar.
Why?
It was like, oh, now it makes you invisible. Oh, now it makes you dive into other people. Oh, and I said
that's what I meant. If it can sort of do whatever it needs to in the scene, but I was
to me,
that's
okay with it. To me, it's a cop out. And then it feels like when you're playing a game on the playground when you're a kid, and it's like, oh no, wait, you stepped outside of the safety zone. Oh, I didn't know there was one. Well, now there is, and if you step there, you're safe. And if one, like, just making up those playground rules as you go. I'm such a rule follower that's not my comfort zone. I wanted to know what that bar was. I got that it could allow you to inhabit another person. I got that, and the eye color changing was fantastic, but I wanted to know what that bar was, and then it just disintegrated. It's like, well, once it makes you invisible, it disintegrates.
To me, that was just like it had been used real hard.
It's like a Duraflame. It's like a Duraflame, right?
Yeah, it's a Duraflame. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's a Duraflame.
Sparklers go out.
Well, and I agree that the rule set around the bar itself was fuzzy, and the degree to which it makes sense or not, and the degree to which you give into it is that's a different thing. For me, the thing that I expected to be a mess was specifically the like cosmic FaceTime, where they were sitting at the table together. I thought Do I know what is happening right now? How is he? And I think it was just specifically the cutting that made this absolutely play, and that Firth kept getting, like, when he would break out in a cold sweat, he would start sweating in the kitchen of the farmhouse too. And I thought that was such a great touch. Like, everything about the cosmic FaceTime is what worked for me, even though I totally agree the rules of the bar are Wonkaville.
I want to ask Mandy, have you seen, how do you feel about, we did Project Hail Mary just a couple months ago here, and then also The Arrival. Those two movies, neither. Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
nodding. I'm on a podcast. I am nodding and looking dopey.
Yeah, well, no, that's why I was asking, because both of those have. So the interesting thing about the bars in particular is that both of those movies have a little bit of an explanation of the unknown, where they show and not tell, and that's kind of what they're doing here. And I agree, it really shows up as Deus Ex Machina for the story in it. But when it's done well, in those two, the reason why I bring up those two movies in particular is because those are also movies I feel that use this type of logic leap in a very skillful way. That doesn't make me hate it as much. So yeah, I would throw those out there as ideas that this movie, and those are two, like, those are favorite movies for me. So that's why this movie works for me, because the story and those potential cop outs actually worked for me in the story.
Well, I think one of the reasons it works well is because they drop us in the middle of the story. It's not like, oh, we see the discovery of these things or anything. I mean, we start off with Daniel negotiated. He's negotiated this trade. We're in the middle of stuff. We don't know anything. And then this device shows up. They sort of know, like, hey, don't put too much pressure on it, so we know it's something dangerous. And, there's enough forward momentum in the story. We were able to sort of backfill a little bit of backstory while it's moving forward. But I think that gives us that sense of, we need to trust this story. It's going to drop us in the middle and we'll get what we need as we go along. So it's not just the magical device that somebody pulls out of a drawer out of nowhere. It's been introduced. We know that we'll get information as we need it. I think David Koepp gives us that trust in him as the storyteller, in that script, to move us forward, give us what we need when we need it, and know that we'll get what we need as we go along. Sure, we could start pulling on threads and things will start to fray apart, but I just felt like the pacing moved us along so that there wasn't time to start thinking too much about, like, well, is this being done consistently? All this, I didn't care, because it worked the way it needed to work, and I bought into it, and it gave me what I needed.
Look, I love musicals. People burst into song. It makes no freaking sense. And I allow it every time. So exactly. I understand the mentality of, like, hey, who cares? It was entertaining and interesting. I fully respect that.
There is a mystery box in here that frustrated me, and that's at the end. And I can't tell if it is a masterstroke of cinematic genius on behalf of Steven Spielberg, or if it is a complete cop-out. And it's not about the bars. It's about the geriatric alien whisper at the end. They refuse to translate that binary message. I don't understand. Let's just say, as foundational premise, that Spielberg not wanting to describe the rules of the bar is kind of foundational. I get it. In universe, people may not know how the bar works, and that may be what he hangs his hat on. But everywhere else, they have started teaching us, translating for us, the way people communicate, especially Emily Blunt and O'Connor, that they sort of can talk to each other, translate for each other. They speak empathy, they speak math. And this one time, standing in this room together, they don't say a thing out loud. I don't understand that. I want to understand it, and maybe I'm supposed to feel crappy about that. Maybe that was the intention, that I need to live in this tension. But I did not care for that.
For the alien in particular, you didn't like that he whispered it as opposed to saying it out loud?
It's when he leans over and whispers to Emily Blunt the translation from math to something she can understand. Yeah, I guess you're right. It is what presumably she then takes that and says, here's what happens. Listen, whatever, and tells you, here's the grocery list that the aliens want.
My sorry apology for that is just that she was the chosen spokeswoman. and that we have this opportunity to say it to the world. And so I bought into that. And with the alien doing the whispering too, I just felt like he was too old. Old to say it loudly. So again, there weren't story breakdowns for me in that newsroom, though. I mean, you want to talk about my quibbles with this at a regional a local news station, for that many people to be in the place, it's just not that way anymore. That is a fiction. Like the fact that they had like 15 people in the room where the anchors are, like there's literally maybe one, if that. Most of it is remote. So that was super hard for me. Like that's very Deus Ex Machina. But then later on, when they start uploading the feeds, all of that is very true to the way that works. So that momentum in the climax of the film got me in there as a news guy. I was like, oh yes. And they're calling, and you know, she's getting on the phone and she's like CNN, like picking it up. Like all of that was very real. So it was weird. Like again, everything with this movie, I got super worried. And then it totally kicked my ass. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like, I was like, oh, this isn't good. Oh, and then that's perfect. Like, that's how I felt the whole way.
That anchor person is really an unsung hero of this movie.
What's the actor?
So good.
She brings it all home and makes that whole scene is, to what JJ's saying and other things, is such a tightrope. And she speaks for the movie and Spielberg, and I started tearing up. She's breathtaking.
Courtney Grace.
Yeah.
Like so good.
Might be the best performance in the entire movie.
I agree.
And then, but the other one that I want to focus on is the train scene when they have the moment and the panic attack in the train. Like that was like, I know, I hear you, Mandy, when you say this might not be top to bottom Emily's best performance, but that I have never been more connected to Emily Blunt on screen than those moments. And the two of them together, it was just emotionally perfect for me. I was with them the whole way, and like that's what I go to movies to see. It was so good.
That's what I said right after the movie, is her panic attack was one of the most real portrayals of a panic attack that I've ever seen on screen. As a person who has panic attacks, as a person whose father had Parkinson's, like it was gut wrenching. And I thought that was miraculous acting. And I thought Courtney Grace, watching a news anchor, we've all seen it, right? Breaking news. I'm not sure what's happening. She was so emotional, but so professional and composed, and trying to keep telling the American people what she thought she was seeing. And I was riveted by her. Oh, she was so good.
I'm sorry you're having to watch along with me for this.
Oh,
like
gosh.
Those kinds of strings of words where she's just incapable of describing what she was. Like the entire veil gets pulled back. I thought she was transcendent. She was absolutely incredible.
One more actor I need to point out, the waitress who said, they said you're paying for their meal because they let you use their phone. She's a friend of mine. Okay, carry on. Kathy.
Nice. Yay.
Hey.
All right, Kathy.
Thrilling.
She did great work. I believed every bit of it. You brought up the train thing, and I totally agree. That was a fantastic beat, especially the resolution when he says, "Here, put your hands on the piano, feel the vibration of the strings." That was, chef's kiss. But can I just tell you how much of relief it was when the car was actually taken under by the train? You guys, they never give us the punchline in those sequences where the people were still in the car and it got pushed into the underside of the train. That was, we see cars get hit by trains all the time, but they always escape at the last second. And this, as an action beat, I thought was really refreshing. Let's give us a new perspective on what happens. Maybe the least believable thing is that Alfa Romeo actually didn't have to go in for service before it was destroyed by the train. Notoriously unreliable. Anyway, I thought that was a really great choice, a really great action beat. And once we're into the Steven Spielberg chase, I mean, I am in for it. Were any of you overwhelmed by lens flare in this movie?
I liked it.
It's all good.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You do? You like?
Yeah,
you're all
it
suckers
brought me
for
back.
lens flare. I am too. I realized, okay, we used to joke about J.J. Abrams being lens flare king. He learned it from
this guy,
Daddy.
Well, that's the difference between the master who knows when to apply it appropriately and the novice who's like, I'm just going to use it all over the place. If a little bit is good, then a ton of it is great. And that's where J.J. Abrams went with it. And Spielberg knows always the lighting, always the cinematography, always. I mean, I'm looking at the credits of like, he's got the band back together. He's got all his regulars working with him. So yeah.
And it's so good. There's only one camera move that bothers me, and that's when we're looking at the laptop and we're showing the videos to Jane, because we do this over the top of it and a twist and come down. And I think like the choice for it is to show the disorientation, but really in the moment, it's way overdone for that moment that's there. And I only bring it up as a quibble because every other camera motion was spectacular. One of my favorite ones is when the big tech baddies are coming into the final area, and the camera just pulls back wide to reveal the emptiness and the nothing, and then it does it again to reveal that like the fire trucks and everything. Like it's just like it gives you, in these simple camera choices, it gives you the perspective of all the people involved in the movie and keeps you excited as an audience member too. It was just like everything was thoughtful and wonderful except for that one. So I loved the camera in this movie.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought it was super effective and dynamic, and everything I wanted out of it. The quieter moments, right? And the reason we have Jane as a character is to get us to the church, and we have to go to the church because we have to meet Sister Mara, and we have to meet Sister Mara so Sister Mara can have a phone call later. And that allows us to address, we already addressed the Spielberg benevolence versus threat, right? Somebody already said, this is a classic Spielberg optimistic film. Aliens are not invaders. Aliens are a corrective to humanity if we understand them, if we are empathetic enough. But we also get, and this is probably because I don't listen to this media all that much, but we get this discourse on why would God make life only for us? Like, why would we're the supreme, I don't know, that we're the supreme whatever creation on earth, she says over and over, on earth. What is your perspective on Spielberg putting this part in the movie? I don't think the other two movies address as much overtly religious architecture.
What had occurred to me was it's an answer to the questions brought up in the movie Contact. Robert Zemeckis, who, with the entire Matthew McConaughey, they are saying that if these aliens are real, then we have destroyed God, because God has not mentioned aliens or dinosaurs, but that left a couple chapters out. But that one negates the other. And that's what a lot of Matthew McConaughey's whole part is. And this is a pretty succinct answer to that. I mean, on Earth. He did other stuff too, but you're reading the source material about the Earth stuff. There's a whole other book, but it sounds like this: knock, knock, nick, nick, knock.
There's
nick,
so
knock.
many books.
You're not going to enjoy that Audible at all.
Have you read the Bible in math?
So I see it as an important dynamic because with Margaret and Dan, you've got two sides. He's the math and science piece, right? I mean, that's the coding, all of that. Margaret's that human component. It's the science and religion. You've got to have them both, and they've got to work together in a complementary relationship. And so that's why I felt like that whole aspect of faith and all of that, of, the line of, she's saying to Jane, you didn't lose faith in God, you lost faith in people. And it's those things of, how are we human together? What is that sort of spiritual connectedness piece that, whatever your supreme being is, should be bringing us together. I see that's Margaret's role. And then you've got to couple that with the science of it. So I felt like it created that balance of a parallel between those two characters and their relationship having to come together, and how people need to reconcile their faith, belief, whatever that is, with the facts that they're presented with, and how do you integrate those two and maintain your balance in life?
Yeah, because in Contact, it leads to terrorism. Jake Busey's character ends up destroying the first shuttle because he's saying that it's taking God out of the picture. And so a way to maybe show that empathy and not empathy, optimism in humanity being able to make this leap and not just be taken down by its own hypocrisies, that she just sort of puts it out there. She needs to put it in a blog right away. She can't just tell one person. Yeah.
I think the film is demonstrating there's a very broad slate of reactions to this thing, and generally there are the one position, the protective position, the conservative position is we can't tell because civilization will fall apart, and the other two, and maybe the aliens, I don't know, we never get to hear what they think, seem to think that it's not for any one gatekeeper to decide how humanity is supposed to act, and
So your question, do you like, that is the question for me. So I believe in that it's not for any one gatekeeper to decide. And we have a bunch of different perspectives from the different characters in this movie. There's actually really great debate that is brought up by the characters in this movie on it. And I think this is probably Daniel's position that I'm falling into the most. But like ultimately, like the thing that I do believe in is like care and good and do no harm. And what Daniel said as a sort of gatekeeper is like, no one person should decide. And they mentioned that a couple times, like, this belongs to you now, right? Like to everyone. And I think that is the thing that I believe in most, that like we need to put it all out there. I have that about lots of things that we've dealt with recently, the tragedies that we've dealt with, like COVID and all these things. Like there's been a lot of gatekeeping about information because we assume that people are going to deal with it poorly. And we see in this movie how there are examples of that. But the reality is that everyone needs to be trusted with information because it actually has a better result when the information is shared rather than trying to gatekeep that information. And that is the thing that I believe. So I don't know if that's the question that you're asking, but that's what comes up for me when you ask that question.
It's the end of the movie. We know which side he's on. I think it's much more optimistic. I know I brought up the mitigating factors, but it's much more optimistic that it's not. And I know that there have been some complaints, and friends of the show, some complaints that it seemed like the hook of the movie was the disclosure, and then it ends at the disclosure, thus negating the entire point of the movie. I go back and forth on that. I kind of see that idea, but I like the mystery. To answer your question from a long time ago, Pete, I like the tension. I like living in there. And I think that the movie is leaning more towards this is going to change everything. And in a good way, there doesn't seem to be anything malevolent coming from the aliens that we can sense. And so, yeah.
I don't want to get too political, but I will say that it seems like an opportunity for warmongering and hunting these aliens and killing them, which reminds me of our current state of affairs and ICE. And so I do fear, if we were to tell the world, my fear is like 95% of people would say, cool, let's learn from each other and expand our worlds and our cultures. But the evil oligarchy at the top would say, well, now here's an excuse to hunt these creatures and kill them or do experiments on them, the way Colin Firth is like, no anesthetic. Like that's the fear. Right. That's so I would like to say I have complete faith in mankind and it would all be benevolent, but these days I can't say that.
And there may be additional things to say about that, but one thing that like I would like to sort of point at this movie too, in just before we wrap on it, is that because I think all of us, because Mandy and I talk about it, I think we've all seen Thunderbolts now, right? And the interesting thing about Thunderbolts is a comic book movie that is actually talking about dealing with personal trauma to find healing or to find a way to go. That is in this movie too, and like whether or not disclosure or aliens or any of this stuff matters to you, there is a very strong message about going back in and facing the things that you're terrified of to get to a place where you can be more optimistic and more open and more communal. I don't know if that's the right word, but like the point is, I saw that movie too here with Disclosure Day, and I loved it. I talked about it to no end when we talked about Thunderbolts, and that is here for me too. Is it that there is a message here that like whatever you're struggling to really like think about or to really deal with, there is something better on the other side of that. And I think that's a good message for everyone.
I'm going to cue some John Williams music, and I'm going to give JJ a little reverb on that last line, and it's going to be spectacular. This movie is trending toward, I think, it was leading up to this weekend. It was trending toward like 38 million opening weekend, which is, and I, going into this movie, I was such a downer. I would have picked the under. But I think now its opening weekend target's 44. And it's doing a little bit better than expected. How did you guys feel walking into this movie when movies like made by our 79-year-old, cinematic, mainstay, when we also have in theaters right next door to it, Backrooms and Obsession and movies made by these young upstart YouTube, foundational YouTube filmmakers. Did you have any sort of inner thoughts about those experiences? And I'll tell you, I have not seen either of those movies in the theater because I had to go see Masters of the Universe and this. So everybody's taking the under on me now.
Warranted.
So what are you thinking? What are you thinking about? Any thoughts?
Well, I can say I saw it on Friday afternoon, and looking around, I mean, the theater was maybe between maybe pushing close to a third full, I think. But it's the afternoon, it's a Friday, but just the average age, I'm like, oh, these are Spielberg kids, all in our 40s, 50s or whatever. I'm like, that's who's here, who's showing up for that. The diehard Spielberg fans, they grew up on his stuff. They're like, yeah, we'll come back to the fountain again one more time for this. And that's fine. But yeah, I agree. There's, I think the fact that just the diversity of what we can see in the cinema now, we get these young upstarts from YouTube or whatever. That's great. That's the next film school. That's where they're learning their craft. There's a place for that. And, they should be able to stand side by side next to each other. And hopefully you get some cross-pollination of somebody walking like, yeah, this is here too. Maybe I'll check that out. They're on a level playing field versus the, direct to video, just straight to streaming, whatever that is, it's like second tier. Now that we can have those things side by side at the multiplex, it gives them that credibility and status that they're due and that they deserve.
Remember when David Fincher was criticized for coming from MTV?
Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly. That different film school, right? It's the YouTubers, it's all those guys. That's, that whole different approach. And hopefully that will create a different style of storytelling, different, type of cinema. It needs to evolve. We've talked about multiple times of just like there's no creativity left. It's the same thing. It's just Hollywood cranking out the same old. Maybe we're starting to see the next generation start to crack through.
All right, it's time. We have to transition to letterboxd.com/thenextreel. That's where you can find all of the reviews of all the films that we talk about on the family of film podcasts associated with the Film Board. I get very distracted when Tom holds up his bar because I think he's going to make me invisible. It's very terrifying. And so how are we going to rate it? You got 5 stars, you got 1 heart. You have to apportion them responsibly. All right, Mandy, we should just start with you. What are you going to do?
I knew you would. And I'm after we hang up, Tommy, will you call me and tell me of these other people that who didn't like it? Because I'm feeling, and I knew I would feel on an island about my feelings, but I really was, I really didn't like it. There were things I liked and performances I liked and moments that were very cool, but I would give it, oh God, send all my hate mail to Pete Wright at PeteWright.com. I'm going to say 2 stars.
Okay.
And no heart?
Totally fair.
I assume?
No heart.
Got it.
Tom, that means you have a total of 8 stars to work with and 2 hearts. What are you going to do?
No one understands your stars and hearts. I'm really interested in revisiting this movie later on to see. I have a feeling my score is going to either go up or down, and maybe by quite a lot. I'm not sure, because this may end up, for some of the things that Mandy has said and other people have said, that maybe I got blinded by the bag of tricks and the sentimentality of it and didn't give enough credence to the fact that the movie at times does not work, is very episodic road trip kind of movie, and that could really hurt it. Right now I'm giving it 4 stars and a heart.
All right. Steve-O.
This is, like, as I said to start, this is the movie I didn't know was coming, the one that I absolutely needed. I'm at 4.5 stars and a heart. On a rewatch, it may go to 4. It may trend over to 5. I never give 5 stars on a first viewing because I just need to see, second set of eyes. This one I could see going either way. Just loved it.
All right. JJ?
Well, I'll do that for you. I gave it a 5 stars, and really in review of it too, I definitely have stuff that annoys me too. I mentioned National Treasure or the Da Vinci Code, where it really feels like you're just on a road trip and everything is Deus Ex Machina. But it didn't matter to me because it was so meaningful to me, and that was enough to win me there. And actually, in looking back at Project Hail Mary, I don't think I gave that a 5 stars. But looking at the two of these movies as 2026 movies that we're looking at, these movies are making me feel good about movies again, to be honest. We had a long swoon of not good stuff. I am now excited about the stuff that's coming out, both from the young people that you're talking about and from these old stalwarts that are great films. I've been let down by Spielberg a bunch too. This one did it for me. So I'm a 5 stars here. I'd revise my Project Hail Mary probably up to 5 stars. I really liked it.
JJ, I'm assuming you're trying to spare Tommy's feelings. You're talking about Y2K, right?
Right?
What a terrible legacy.
That is a gift that keeps on giving. I'll tell you what. Brilliant. I am also at 4 stars for this one and a heart. I with all of the things that you guys have said, and actually, you making me think about. I think I gave Project Hail Mary 4 stars. Just if this one is 4 stars, then I feel like I need to revise Project Hail Mary down for me, because I liked this movie more than that movie. It made me feel in places energized in ways that Hail Mary did not, and so I'm on board with this movie. It could go up. I'm relieved with Spielberg. It would be okay if he decided I'm kind of done making movies. It'd be okay to end on this one. He did fine.
You can say that 10 years ago.
It's a winner.
Well, his daughter's making a movie now.
Oh my God. Anyway, this is great. It'll be interesting to see how it performs, if it's got any legs to it after opening weekend. But it's definitely one for the collection. I'm going to be watching this one again. I can already tell. So thank you, everybody. And shout out to podcasts represented on this show. First and foremost, we've already dropped Make Me a Nerd with the fantastic Mandy Kaplan. Who even knows what's coming up? By the time this goes out, who knows what it's gonna be.
Great.
It's gonna be great. You're gonna nerd out. Yep, I can already tell. Sitting in the Dark, the horror podcast, if you're interested. That's the thing that Tommy Metz does ably. And this is where you can find Steve and JJ all the time, monthly, and that's where you can find them. That's it. And I'm all of the other places too. Links in the show notes. Thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure to send us a note. Jump in the free Discord if you are interested. You can find all the links at truestory.fm, and we'd love to see you there and hear what you think of this fair film. On behalf of Justin J.J. Yeager and Steve Sarmento and Tommy Metz III and Mandy Kaplan, I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you next month right here on the Film Board.
Listen.